All right. Thanks, Jeffrey. I'm not big on titles. I feel like we're all in everything together, so it really doesn't matter where we come from. It matters where we're going.
Yeah.
So that's the way I look at everything.
Hi, Mr. Gordon.
How you doing, honey? Jeffrey, like Jeffrey said, I'm Corey Hill. Do I have any union members in the house?
Ex-union members.
Ex-union members? Okay. So y'all know where I'm coming from. Do I have any labor leaders in the house? Everybody raise their hand. Everybody. Anybody work for a living? Anybody work for a living? Okay, then raise your hand. Okay? Because you pay taxes into this U.S. government for services that we're supposed to be receiving that we're not receiving. And if anybody has a say, it should be the people that labor every day. Okay? So we're all in the same movement together. Unless you're Donald Trump and you inherit a lot of money, okay? Or you are well off and do not have to walk in that walk, okay? But what we have today is government pretty much ran through influence of corporations. You know, Citizens United and the things that's been passed over the years to do those types of things. You know, we have a president that has been talking about immigration, putting tariffs on Mexico. You know, that sounds good, but when you get down to the root of it, he's saying, oh, we're going to do that. We're going to create jobs, okay? You know, the thing about it is there's always a push from somebody. There's billions and trillions of dollars has been invested in Mexico. Mexico right now is 0.2% unemployment rate. You ever thought about them trying to keep those people in? Because they ain't got people working down there. They can't get workers to work in the plant where they spent money, where they're making billions of dollars, where people over here are living in poverty because they keep us at poverty wages. Okay? They knew they had to deal with that, and it would be an uprising if they continue to do that. Remember the Wall Street movement? Occupy Wall Street? Once that started going, what did you see? You started seeing things moving out. Moving out. Because they knew they would have to deal with the people here. So what they did is went to another country that had a lower standard of living than what we had. Okay? So you ever notice how the big migration that come out of Honduras, and they, you know, first it was a big fleet, we're going to have to stop them, and then they kind of dismantled them. It's because corporations picked them up. We got jobs for y'all here. It was a little bit better there in Mexico than it was in Honduras. It's all about them making the money that they need to make. It's not about protecting our rights as workers here. There's always an underlying statement there. You have to look at what's going on. They want to do something about the border? Start running customs the way it should be ran. We got 3,500 trucks that comes across that border every day. Do you think they're inspected? These people ain't crossing through a field out here in farms. They're coming in truckloads. Come on now. If they really want to talk about immigration, talk about controlling what we have the ability to control. But you're not going to stop those trucks. Why? Because corporations need those parts. They're going to say, hey, I can't make money. Let's get down to the greed of it. Okay? And that's honest. So, and we deal with the same thing here in North Carolina. We have very few labor laws on books that are not issued by federal standards. You know, most of the labor laws we have on there have come in the past. Why? Because the labor unions have fought for them. Your 40-hour work week, okay? Paid time off, 8-hour work day. All coming from the labor movement. And over the years we haven't done anything because we have become accustomed to, we was growing so great. And then we had the big crash of 9/11 and the economy went down. And it was a way for them to start the big social divide. Ever since then, the only thing that's been getting is wider. Look at what CEOs make according to the people that sit in their plants working on them. How many people's got a pension in here?
I'm checking on that.
Very few. Very few. Very few. Okay. How many people got retiree health care? Medicare, yeah, it's outside of Medicare. There you go. A lot of them were the same people that held up, they work for unions. Because if you don't have a voice, they ain't going to give it to you. Okay? All right? I mean, that's where we're at. I mean, in North Carolina, do you realize that a paid break's not even on the books? They give a paid break, most corporations do, but it's not on the books. But now you're seeing more and more of that go away, especially in the service industry. You go into a small cell phone store or somewhere like that, it's 2 people working in there. They're tied to that all day long. You can't go nowhere. Hardly even get to go to the bathroom. I mean, because they don't have to by law to pay them. And you know, they make a mockery out of us. Because they tell you up front, what did the president say when he was running? I do what I want to because I know how to play the game. Okay? If you got enough money, you can play the game. If you're in control, you can play the game. If someone's underneath you that's working for you, you can play the game. You give them what the games gave and dealt to you. Well, it's time for us to get in the game. Okay? We have a good labor movement here in North Carolina. It's recognized a lot throughout the state, but we're only 3% unionized. Because we're right to work. Right to work's not good. Okay? Sounds good. Everybody should have a right to work, right? And they should, with dignity. Okay? With dignity. That's what they should have a right to do. Work with dignity. Okay? But that's not what it means. An at-will employee is, you're an at-will. They can let you go tomorrow with no reason. And everybody thinks they got to have a reason to dismiss you. They do not. At all. Unless you have a voice. Unless you have a voice. You know, our biggest fault is this. We come together and we run political campaigns to elect people that we feel like they want to do that's in our best interest. And then we don't talk to them. That's our fault. Okay? The political movement, we're in Raleigh a lot. The political movement goes into, you need to be making phone calls. And when you call Carl Ford and whenever you call Harry Warren and these people that are out here putting these laws out, you need to know what to talk to them about. The unemployment law. Do you realize Harry Warren wrote that law? He was the co-sponsor of that law. The law that took our payout down to, down to $350 from the maximum of $525, that cut what we could draw down to 26 weeks. The law that made it where if you are offered 20% more than what you was drawing in unemployment, because the law used to say if you was offered 20% less than what you made, roundabout figure, you made $1,000, you was offered an $800 job, you had to take it. Now the average unemployment is $238. If you're offered more than 20%, guess what? You got to take it. You know what that is? Minimum wage.
Right.
That's minimum wage. I mean, we complain about people that go out and get assistance, but we're in the richest country in the world and we pay them a poverty wage. That's no dignity. None at all. But that wasn't good enough for people. They even moved even further south so they could even pay less. Even pay less. The AFL will have some, the AFL-CIO, American Federation of Labor, Congressional Industrial Organizations of America, in North Carolina, we put together a Workers' Bill of Rights. And we're going to be implementing that and putting it towards the legislation. We already passed it in Durham. We have a works council there on behalf of their employees where if they have things that come against them, they can go and talk to the work council. They can help go and not represent them because it's against public service bargaining, okay? But they can go talk on their behalf and be a liaison, okay? That's something we got to change. People's like, oh, you can't have public service bargaining. It crippled the economy. You can't do it. It will cripple the state. They can't pay out what they pay. And New York does it. I mean, we got lots of states that do it, that lead in education because their teachers are organized, that lead in primary things. And I look at them and I was like, you know, and that kind of don't make sense. Because if I was a businessman, wouldn't I, and I signed a 6-year contract with my teacher, wouldn't I want a fixed rate for 6 years and know what I'm going to pay, what my cost is? Wouldn't I want to know what a cost is on that? Wouldn't I want a fixed budget for so many years and know that's what I've got to meet? But they don't want to say. They don't want to talk to every day on what rights you have in there on the floor. They don't want the ability to talk about what the needs of the people are. Just like our government. They don't want to hear that what we want from the tax dollars we pay in. Oh, we can't do that. We can't expand Medicaid. It costs too much money. Okay? We can't do this. We can't expand minimum wage. Why? Why? It eliminates corporate welfare. Does it not? Look at the biggest corporate welfare we got. Walmart, okay, back in the 70s, the largest private employer was General Motors. Paying pensions, giving time off, okay, had retiree health care, and one of the best wages you can make in the United States. Largest employer. Today it's Walmart. With little to no benefits unless you pay for them. 85% of their people make minimum wage, which they're going above that because they're getting ready to pay $11 an hour to make this joint thing, okay? But you look at those things, and the key of it is they know they've got to do something because they're losing people. See, when it starts affecting them and it costs them more to train because they lose so many people, that's the only time they want to raise their wages. When it starts coming out of their pocket. Until then, they won't take advantage of it. See, we're all in it together. Everything we do, you want to change somebody's life, give them a good job. Make it where they can sit in their living room and know that they can pay their bills, they can go on vacation, they got time off, and they can afford to take their kids or wife or loved ones to the doctor. You want to change their life? That's more than what most people can do today. You know what? A lot of those people that can't do that is not in this room. You know why? Because they are mentally beat down. They have mentally gave up. And they mentally think there is no future except for what they live underneath right now. It almost becomes a generational curse. We're better than that. We're better than that. So how do we conquer that?
That's the question.
That's the big thing. Everybody that makes decisions is elected officials. That's what they call it. They're called lawmakers for a reason. Okay? They make laws. And we have to govern underneath those laws. All right? And every one of them is not going to be a victory. But the thing about it is making sure they know that we're not going away. Having our agenda heard. Calling the Carl Fords, calling the Harry Warrens, and talking to them about every little thing that's coming up. When I went the other week and talked about, I went and talked to Carl Ford a little bit. He said, we got paid breaks. So I said, no, it's not. They don't even know what their laws are. They don't really care. No, we don't. And the thing about it is, the things that we are doing, what we need to do is start past those things and get those things on the books so we get some security and get some momentum and get some wins and get somewhere, some direction that we're going in. Because people has to realize and has to wake up and see where everybody's at. Okay? Where everybody's at. And it all refers back to how do you change people's lives? Give them a good job. Make them have some dignity. That's where it's at. Workers' rights embrace everything. Workers' rights is human rights. Workers' rights, because that's what we want to be treated. We're treating people inhuman now by paying them a wage that is a poverty wage. When you make minimum wage, you qualify for assistance. And then we have people like on our city council, we passed that the starting wage would be higher in Salisbury, and they're on our list of municipalities that we did that. We have over 40 of them across the state now that has a starting higher wage than the minimum wage. But we also have all the ones that's not. But you still take that to Raleigh and say all your municipalities underneath you in the counties that you represent, know that their people are living in poverty. You want to fight poverty? First thing you got to do is make a stand to do something about it. Don't pay a poverty wage yourself. Okay? You want to get away with crime? Make it where people don't have to go out and do crime to survive, because that's what a lot of them do. And then we want to take that and put pressure on the ones that do have control. Eventually, we will rise up enough that we can take that back, whether it be in electing them out or the pressure that we put on them. But elections start every day. Every day, whenever you say, hey, we've sent and we've talked to Harry Warren and Carl Ford about changing workman's comp. We talked to them about going back and moving back the unemployment where it needs to be. We talked to them about raising minimum wage. And we talk to them every week. We send letters and this and that and be able to publish the things that they send back to you that they don't want nothing to do with that. Then they're going to have to answer those questions, because once those things become part of the normal routine that you hear in the community, because that's what we made it our routine, they're going to say, yeah, they do need to answer that. And what have you done about it? That's where you get rid of them. They've been up there for the last 2 years. They ain't done nothing about it, except make it worse. And they're not going to do anything about it. I'm sick and tired of going in people's offices up there and say, well, my party says this. You know what? I didn't know you was party affiliated. When I come in here, I noticed you was a representative of my county, of the people that was in here.
That's right.
So what you going to do for them? I don't care what you do for your party. You go kiss up to them all you want. What are you going to do for these people that work down here? That's the thing. I could care less about parties. Parties are for elections. Okay? You run on a party ticket. When you become an elected official, you're a representative. You're not, you represent everybody. You're not running anymore. So what are you going to do? But we have to maintain a voice, get those things. I do have to get going. I can talk all day. But we have a Workers' Bill of Rights town hall meeting coming up at our local, up in Statesville. I invite for y'all to come. It's open to the public. I know the mayor's going to be there. I'm going to send out an invitation to the whole city council. And we'll be, I'll send it out to the commissioners here, Statesville, all around. We will try to talk about it's not party affiliated, it's worker affiliated. It's about each other. Jobs, like I said, jobs is all about everybody. They encompass everybody. Civil human rights is job. Job rights and civil human rights are the same thing. Human rights and job rights are the same thing. You look back at the labor movement. We talked about history. You look back at the labor movement, the civil human rights movement wouldn't have happened if it wouldn't have been for the labor unions. People don't realize that. Look it up. Look up some history on it. You know where Martin Luther King's only office was? It was in Detroit, Michigan, the Solidarity House, home of the UAW. He wrote a little speech there called I Have a Dream. That's where he wrote it at, in our International Hall. When they freed Nelson Mandela, you know the first place he come? It's to the people that helped get him freed. He come to Solidarity House and met with us before he met with anybody else. I mean, there's a big movement because we realized, the leaders back then realized that job rights and civil human rights was the same. Everybody should have a right to the dignity of, you know, here's our bill. Here's our workers' bill of rights. Everybody should have a right to a good job, fair wages. Okay, just quality health care, access to it, safe jobs. Paid time off and flexible time off given towards certain things. We have that through FMLA, but a lot of employers don't even help their people understand how they qualify for that, or how to fill out the paperwork for that. Okay. Freedom from discrimination if you want to unionize. Retire with dignity. See, very few people raise their hand for a pension, and it's getting worse. More and more going away. Education. That's a whole different story there. I mean, we're struggling on our education system, you know, and a voice of democracy. We should have a say. You know, during the civil human rights movement, people shocked because you'll talk about things, and whenever Dr. King got locked up in Montgomery, Alabama, he said, "You'll rot in prison," because he said, "Your bail will be $100,000 cash." Walter Reuther was president of the UAW, and he was also vice president of the AFL-CIO nationally. Took $100,000 cash and bailed him out. When they walked in Washington, Walter Reuther was one of the front runners that walked right there side by side down the street. When he made the speech, was right there beside us. It was a big funding. You ever notice whenever they did the civil rights movement, they held signs and walked, picketed, nonviolent? Where do you think they got that from? What do you think they do whenever we walk the picket line? It's the exact same thing. How do we create a movement that creates? It's no different. They said that whenever they started a meeting, he said, "How do we create a movement that gives us a voice?" That's all they was looking for. Same way with labor today. The unions don't think it gives you a voice. And that's tough because we have a lot of people. I mean, we're only 3.2% unionized in the whole state.
I hesitate to bring this up, but as you go through this country and see the decaying houses, hospitals closing, access to health care closing, I had read this book called Boomtown, how to bring back these, you know, our cities and our towns. The number one thing he said was, if you're not a right to work state, you're not going to get corporations to come here. And that is a big concern because they have dismantled workers' rights with that. And so how are you going to balance? Where are the jobs? Where are the corporations? You know, where is the future with this horrendous oppression, you know, oppressive statute or law or whatever it is?
Yeah, and you see that because there's a right to work is they feel like they don't have the pressure of the unions to deal with, you know, and that's the South. That's the reason why we have a lot of things moving here. Whenever we talk to Canada about the North American Trade Act, whenever they talked about it, what did they say? The South of the U.S. is our Mexico. That's what the president said of Canada. The South in the U.S. with your right to work laws is our Mexico.
Yep.
And see, they did it. They made that migration. Corporations did. They come to the South, made a lot of money. Then when they felt like they could make more money going further south, they kept on going.
Don't run out of labor
Huh?
Everybody can't come because they'll run out of labor.
Right, exactly.
They need the labor.
Yep. But that's the thing. That's the thing about, you know, immigration right now.
Corey, you're referring to right to work. Can you please explain exactly what that is? What you know, because people hear it and they say, "Oh, that means I can go to work," and that's not what it means. It means the opposite. Yeah. Can you explain exactly how it works?
You have closed shop states, you have right to work states. And right to work states, it's harder to organize unions, okay? Because in a closed shop state, the only thing you gotta do is go in and basically do a card check and have enough people sign a card and you can come in. Here we have to have elections, okay? And you have to have somewhat of an election there to verify that the cards were signed, but that's how you can file your petition. And at a right to work state, they do anti-worker campaign. Anybody ever sit in an anti-worker campaign? You ever hear people talk about how unions aren't good and yeah, I mean, Lowe's gives a lot of them, Walmart gives a lot of them. A lot of times it's some new high orientation. We're going to take care of you. You don't need this. You don't need that. And that's the biggest difference. It's about the integrity of being able to easily organize. Now, in a right to work state, you also in a closed shop state, if you go to work in a union shop, then you're in that union shop. You join the union. Here, you got a choice whether to join the union or not. We got people out of Freightliner that is not in the union. They get everything that we get by law. We have to represent them. When I go to the bargaining table and we bargain our contracts, they get everything we get. They don't pay into the union.
Same thing with state employees.
Yep. Same thing with state employees. You know, that's tough. That's tough. Any questions?
Just rarely do we ever go backwards. So, not to be a naysayer, I would expect that the union would not expect to go back to what it was 50 or 100 years ago. What is the philosophy going forward to mesh what the union can be, what industry will allow them to be, so that everybody can have some gain in that process?
Yeah. Well, going forward is stuff like what the AFL is trying to do now, is implementing laws on law books that gives rights to everybody. Going forward, you know, because the big thing with the unions, we get to set and we get to negotiate what our wages is inside of our plants, and other people don't see that. The only people that sees that's us. So it's like, oh well, you know, it's kind of become self-driven to be a member of the union and be involved and have a say and sit down. And you know, we're not anti-company at all. We want the corporation. We work good with Daimler. I've been there for 28 years. I want to see them make as much money as they possibly can and hire as many people as we do, because whenever we have a lot of people working out there, our county does quite well. And when we lay off, it hurts, because we know as a union, and we talk to everyone about this, people rely on us to go to work out there, because whenever we're not there, then the roads don't get paid, the schools don't get fully funded. It's a lot of money, not just paid from individuals that come into the area, but from the corporation. With all the amount of money we make, I mean, every 8 trucks we make out there is $1 million. Okay, I mean, it adds up to be $1 million coming off that line. We build 120 a day. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money that goes here.
What is the union stance on working toward ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment here in North Carolina?
In which way?
The ratification of the Equal Rights Amendment to the U.S. Constitution that has not been ratified in North Carolina.
We support it.
Are you actively working with
Yes.
anyone?
They have. We have activists in Raleigh just like everybody else does. We don't have as many because we don't have the money, but we support it because it's a human rights issue. It's a human rights issue. I mean, the women's pay. It's not equal. It's a human rights issue. I mean, we should all be treated fairly.
If I could just kind of sum up about the right to work law. Basically, it makes it illegal for a union to negotiate a contract where everybody has to belong. Like you said, freeloaders, they get all the benefits. So that weakens the union. But a union contract is what gives you the protection where you can only be fired or disciplined for a just cause.
Right.
So without a union contract, like you said, you're employed at the will of the employer.
Yep.
He can hire his nephew to take your job.
That's right.
With no recourse.
Yep.
But it not just weakens you in the workplace, it weakens you throughout all your public life. You don't have people advocating strongly for public education, for better housing, for the Equal Rights Amendment, for equality. So by having such a weak labor movement, they're able to do anything they want to in Washington. And that's why we need to get rid of the right to work law. And I think it can happen if people get together. Just like women finally got the right to vote 100 years ago.
Yep.
Right? We can change this.